Well, hello there, YouTube, and welcome to another edition of The Breakfast Club with Got That Funk. Thank you for joining me. I'm just going to keep this video pretty brief. A lot of pundits have been talking ever since the 2016 election, for that matter, about who's going to be the Democratic challenger to Trump in 2020. But that conversation is sort of kicked into a higher gear now that the midterm elections are behind us. And there's open speculation about certain prominent members of Congress, for example, who might run for president, as well as certain prominent business people and other celebrities who might run for president. And I just like to speculate a little bit about some of that, but I really want to concentrate on the prospect of Hillary Clinton running again in 2020. So I'll get that out of the way first. I've seen several articles float across my Twitter feed lately from various sources talking about how Hillary Clinton is, in quotation marks, the best chance we have to defeat Trump in 2020. I don't know. It's almost as if I'm prepared to speculate that someone's paying for these articles to be written, because I honestly don't think that there's clamoring in the nation for Hillary to get another shot at becoming president. Quite frankly, with all due respect to Hillary Clinton, she ran for president twice. She lost twice. Now, I know there's going to be people saying, well, she didn't really lose because, she beat Trump by almost 3 million votes. That's true. And, I've never been a fan of the Electoral College for a variety of reasons, both of which were evident in 2016. Number one, the quirks of the Electoral College meant that the significant winner of the popular vote didn't get the presidency, so there's that. And also, quite frankly, I think the Electoral College should have done its constitutional responsibility of saying, you know what, no, we can't let a demagogue become president, especially one that didn't win the popular vote. But they didn't do that, so we are where we are. Anyway, not a fan of the Electoral College. Having said that, I think Hillary Clinton has been shown to be too toxic to be elected as president of the United States. And what do I mean by that? I don't necessarily mean her policies. I mean, there are just so many people in the country that, right or wrong, can't stand Hillary Clinton. People who would otherwise vote Democrat would not vote for Hillary Clinton. And I think that speaks volumes. I think that's just it. 9% of registered Democrats voted for Donald Trump. That 9%, had they not voted at all, would have denied Trump the presidency. But they felt so strongly that they didn't want Hillary Clinton that they ended up voting for fucking Trump anyway. So this is why I get kind of annoyed at people, by the way, from last time when they say, oh, they want to blame Jill Stein or others for draining off the lefty vote. No. The lefty vote was drained off by Trump. The ones who were that disaffected went to Trump. And this is why the Democratic Party is doomed if it doesn't self-correct. They need to realize that Hillary Clinton is not a winner. She ran for president twice. She lost twice. And I think she needs to discover the humility necessary to put the good of the country ahead of her own personal ambition to become the first woman president, and just let someone else do that. Now, a lot of people have been saying that Bernie Sanders is likely to run for president. He's certainly made no secret about his intention to probably declare, and I'm sure he'll do that sooner than anyone else will if that turns out to be his desire. Now, Bernie Sanders, by the time the 2020 election happens, he would be 79 years old at the time of the election. And I don't think it's necessarily ageist to worry about Bernie's age as a factor when it comes to voting for Bernie in 2020. Now, don't get me wrong, I suffer from ageism, because I'm an old guy now. So sometimes people criticize me because I'm old, and I think it's kind of funny, but it happens. Anyway, so I don't really appreciate it, and I don't want to be guilty of it in the same way. Although I think it is fair to say that, when you're lifespan exceeds the average life expectancy, you're living on borrowed time from that moment onwards. Even if you live another 20 years, it's gravy, you know what I mean? And it is perfectly reasonable for someone who doesn't necessarily have any idea, you know, of your overall level of health. 79 is very old for some people and doesn't seem so very old for other people, you know. So I think it's a legitimate concern, Bernie's age at the time of the election, and I think that will certainly be used against Bernie, and I think that may or may not resonate with an awful lot of people. I think that it'll meet with a certain resistance from diehard Bernie fans, but I think if you're just being honest and, you know, dispassionate about the person and just looking at the number, I think looking at the number makes it fair to go, you know, it really does matter who his number two is going to be, you know, because we need to make sure that we've got both bases covered with someone who's extremely competent and, you know, is looking to take the country in the right direction. So, you know, it might break with convention, but if I was going to give advice to Bernie Sanders, I'd say, look, if you're going to run for 2020, it might be best to be more or less out of the gate with someone as your vice presidential contender already chosen. That way you could campaign together, cover more ground, and also try to put to bed some of the speculation that you might be too old to be elected for your first term of the presidency at the age of 79. For me, I'd have to wait and see, you know, how Bernie seemed in 2 years and everything like that. You know, running for the presidency all by itself is an exhausting, arduous process. You know, the year and a half or so before the election would take a toll on anybody of any age. So we'll see how it goes. You know, I would vote for Bernie if he was the nominee, absolutely. It wouldn't surprise me if I voted for someone else in the primary. It really depends on who runs and what their policies are. There's a few people who are lesser well known that I do kind of like. A lot of people talk about Cory Booker. I'm not very keen on Cory Booker. I think he seems to me a little bit too self-evidently in the pocket of a few big money interests. I mean, you can make that kind of a criticism about so many people in Washington, and it's almost not worth making. But I would like it very much if we could get someone like, say, for example, Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii to run for the presidency. Now, again, you know, like any politician, there are certain things about Tulsi Gabbard I would prefer not to be the case. However, on the other hand, you know, she says an awful lot of things that I agree with. In particular, for me, I would like the United States to get the hell out of all of its foreign military adventurism. And Tulsi Gabbard is pretty much the only person in Washington who talks the talk. And that's in no small part due to the fact that she's, you know, an Iraq war veteran. And so she's got a pretty informed perspective on the Middle East and the rights and wrongs of what happened there. And, you know, she wants us to get out, and so do I. So that's something I would vote for all by itself. Something I would never vote for is someone who openly wants to increase our military adventurism abroad. I think we're already overextended and unnecessarily killing innocent people for no good reason. It's not increasing our national security, you know, and it's just wasting an awful lot of money, as far as I could tell. And making more enemies, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, so, you know, people say Kamala Harris might run for the presidency. I quite like Kamala Harris. She's a senator from California. I've watched her on a lot of videos doing work in Senate committees. I find her questioning is quite incisive, and she's very direct, and she does not suffer fools. You can totally tell that she used to be a prosecutor. She has that kind of vibe, and I think that Kamala Harris has got the level of intellect and the tenacity that if she decided to run for the president, she'd probably make a pretty good pitch for it. And I think that she may prove to be pretty convincing if she does decide to go for it. I don't think she would decide to go for it unless she was going to really go for it, and that would be interesting to see how that worked out. So yeah, who else? Michael Bloomberg. He's talked about running for president or floated the idea. I personally object to this idea that you don't need a grassroots movement to of people who are going, please, please run for president. No, all you need is a lot of money, and you just like afford a campaign, which would be the case with Michael Bloomberg. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, you know, I really wish Michael Bloomberg would run for president. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. Um, what do you think? Do you want Michael Bloomberg to run for president, or fucking any other billionaire who just, you know, like Jeff Bezos, or what's the guy's name who runs Facebook? Is it Zuckerberg? You know, he thought about running for president as well. He floated the idea. Can you imagine someone with his power running for president? I don't even want to go there. Other people like the celebrity, what's his name, The Rock, talked about possibly running for president. I just object. You know, the worst thing that could possibly happen when we get Michael Avenatti, you know, some kind of celebrity president, somebody who just gets a lot of media because they are already famous for getting a lot of media, and that's how Trump got in, as far as I'm concerned. You know, he just said a bunch of outrageous shit, plus he was already famous, and they pretty much had to cover it because he was saying outrageous shit, like banning all Muslims from coming to the country, or, you know, that you have to target the families of terrorists if you want to stop the terrorists, and, you know, saying just this outrageous shit that, of course, they had to cover, you know, and it worked because he got $4 billion worth of free press, and now he's the president. So I hope that doesn't happen again. The worst thing I could think of would be someone like, you know, Bloomberg or Oprah Winfrey or The Rock uh, getting the Democratic nomination just because they're well known and people want to pit, you know, a good guy versus what they see as a bad guy in Donald Trump. I just don't think that would fly. Show me someone with policy ideas. Show me someone with some political experience. Show me someone who's got something to lose and something to gain. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see someone who won't be affected if they lose, like these rich motherfuckers. You know, if they lose, they're just going to go back to their rich life, and, you know, nothing's going to. We'll all be, you know, still stuck with 4 more years of Trump. Meanwhile, they'll be jet skiing in the Bahamas. Anyway, I guess I'm going to wrap the video there. I would like to hear your ideas. I'm sure there's loads of people who might run for the Democratic nomination that I haven't mentioned yet that you might like to talk about. So please feel free to do that in the comment section down below. I'm sorry I dropped the ball with last week's comment section, by the way. It's totally on me. I shall improve below. All right, thanks for watching. Until next time, peace.